Thank you for joining me. Last week we talked about gatekeeping. I introduced the whole idea of gatekeeping, and now we are going to talk about activating your gatekeeping. Let's activate your gatekeeping. So one of the verses we talked about last week was Proverbs 4:23. I'll read that again. This is the primary application to what being a gatekeeper means. Keep your heart with all diligence, or guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. You have been given charge of yourself, essentially. Like what you feed on, what you allow in, and what comes out is up to you. It's determined by you, the choices you make, the lifestyle you live, everything. What you feed on is up to you. So this is how we guard our heart. And the issues of life, it doesn't just mean, like, because you hear the word issues, and I don't know about you, but I might automatically assume that means like problems. Now that's true, but that means good stuff too. Another translation might say, out of it is the wellspring of life. So the wellspring is like what you feed in is going to affect essentially the water, if you want to consider that, the spring that comes out. So you are in charge of you. So you are your gatekeeper. We trust God and that He keeps us. There's His part that He plays, but He will not stop you from, if you want to feed on junk all the time and stuff that actually tears down, He's not stopping you. Like, it's your choice, right? One practical example would be if you live in an environment that's just chaos, and I don't mean stuff that's out of your control, though some of it would be. I mean like your relationships, your lifestyle thrives on just chaos. And that's what's in you, because what's in you is what's going to come out. And like, there's just crisis all the time. There's problems all the time. Chaos, right? Just no order. Just nothing ever seems to find its right order, this chaos. You're probably not going to get very far if you're trying to release peace. Does that make sense? Because what you're feeding on and what you're allowing to be your norm, if it's chaos and crisis and like those kind of issues, like this wellspring of your life is not going to produce peace. So you might pray for peace, and that's fine, but you're not going to be producing peace. That's not the atmosphere that is with you. That's just one basic example. But on the flip side, if you are cultivating the peace of God in your life, and you're actually making intentional choices and creating space for His peace that comes from within, that is different than the world's peace, you can easily release that. Like, that's what comes out of you, because that is what you are cultivating and feeding on. So both sides are true. What you feed on is what's going to come out. I believe we get that. All right. So 1 Corinthians 3:16. Know you not that you are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwells in you? So you are the temple, His Spirit dwells in you. We're probably mostly familiar with that verse. It's common. We've heard it a lot. But let me connect that back with another one I read last week, and that's 2 Corinthians 23:19. So this is the gatekeeper, or the porter. And He set gatekeepers at the gates of the house of the Lord, that none which was unclean in any way should enter in. And this was to protect and to guard over the glory of God that was present in the temple, or the tabernacle. And so now you are this temple. His glory, His Spirit lives within you, right? So it is our job as gatekeepers of our own heart to honor that, to recognize the value and the treasure of His presence actually coming and living within us. So you are your gatekeeper. So this is to activate you. Many of you probably do this at some level already, especially if you're well versed, if you want to say, in like the believer's authority, Kenneth Hagin, the believer's authority, and like, spiritual warfare stuff. Some of you probably do some of these things already. Some of you may not. And so I would encourage you to take the step as we talk about this, consider these things, and just see how you can apply this. Because that's really the point of this. This is just for you guys to have the opportunity to intentionally direct yourself to be a gatekeeper. So primarily you are a gatekeeper over your inner being. Like we just talked about, what you feed on, the things you allow in, just in like, just life and habits even, like those kind of things. Like these are your primary job as a gatekeeper. Another one, and this is one many of you are probably familiar with, and if not, I hope this blesses you. You are a gatekeeper of your own home. So like here in my home, there's me and my wife and our kids. My kids are not responsible for the atmosphere of our home. They're not responsible for, and especially because they're young. Obviously, there's more responsibility as you mature. But my kids are not responsible for the spiritual life and the atmosphere that fills our home on a daily basis. That's not their job. That is actually mine and my wife's. But that is actually my job to stand in a place of authority over my home. So I am the gatekeeper of my home. What comes in is what I allow in. So let me just say this, and this is not a thing of condemnation at all, because not everything that happens, like an attack from the enemy, not everything is because of something you did, okay? So that's not what I'm saying here at all. But ultimately, like, whether you have young children and they're dealing with a lot of stuff, like you are actually responsible to stand in a place of authority over what is allowed in. So like if you have a lot of anger in the home, now there's some inner healing stuff that's a part of it, but let's say you're even in your growing awareness of the unseen. Let's say like you're actually aware that there's like these spiritual attacks coming, like things that have been allowed or have been given place. And you actually have the responsibility to stand in authority over that, tell it no. And the Holy Spirit might reveal to you things that actually need to be adjusted. Right. It's not always about that though. So just to be clear that like God will reveal to you the roots of things. It's not always an obvious thing. Like it's not like if there's fear in the house, it's because someone brought a rated R movie in the house. Now maybe the Holy Spirit shows you that, and so be obedient, but that's not what I'm saying. It's not always that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's just a spiritual attack. But if you're seeing patterns to stuff, often there can be roots. There are roots to those things that can be dealt with. So your home, and maybe you don't have a home, maybe you're younger, maybe you're still living at home with your parents, so you don't have authority over the house, but you do have authority over something. You have authority over yourself to some degree, maybe your own room. You can actually cultivate an atmosphere where you invite heaven in, you invite his presence, God's presence to come. And it can just be even a single room that is your place of authority that you make your primary, like, this is what you cultivate, this space. So anything where you're in a place of authority, it can be anything. Like for me, the example I gave in the last video where I was talking about Encounter Night, that is a service that while I am not in authority over the church, but I am in a place of authority over that service. And so I have the authority to stand in that place where like I am claiming that space. Like I am claiming this for the Lord. Like this is his place. So I do it in my home. I do it at Encounter Night. And then for yourself, of course, like that's like the core, the foundation that it should all come from. So this is my assignment to you, to activate your gatekeeping. One of them you don't have to consider, like your own heart, your inner being. You are the gatekeeper of that. You don't have to ask about that. And some things may just be coming to mind. But just take a minute when we're done here, or whenever you can, and just ask God, like, what are the places that I can be a gatekeeper over? And that might be your home, that might be your family. Obviously, you don't have authority, like if you're talking extended family, you don't have authority over everyone. That's not the point. But like you can be, at least in a form, a gatekeeper over like that kind of thing. And then when you're doing that stuff, actually like spend a minute, maybe close your eyes. That often helps. You don't have to though. And let's say you're doing it over your home, being a gatekeeper of your house, and just take a minute and say like do your thing, like take authority, release things, speak out like his word and whatever he's saying for you to release. And that might be like peace and, whatever, stuff like that, protection. And just ask him, say like, Holy Spirit, can you show me what is happening right now in the unseen? And you might not be aware of anything right away, that's okay, but begin to make that kind of a regular thing you do, where you just ask him, like, what's going on in the spirit? If there's angels being released, and we'll talk about angels soon, probably soon. We will talk about angels at some point, and kind of go further into how some of that stuff works. But like you might be aware of like an angel that showed up, or maybe they've been there, but you become actually aware of it for the first time. And like actually like ask the Holy Spirit questions, because he loves to teach us stuff. And we know this, the Holy Spirit loves to teach us stuff. So like take those steps to like, what do I have authority over that I can stand as a gatekeeper for? To use your authority, speak to it, release heaven, release what God's saying, and then take a minute and ask, like, what's going on? Holy Spirit, can you show me what's happening in the room around me or in my home or whatever? And then actually, if you do get stuff, I would encourage you to write those things down. And because oftentimes, as cool as something might be, time passes and it's easy to forget stuff. It just is. And so write stuff down. It's really helpful. And then hopefully, I would encourage you, if you don't already, have a community that you can like talk. You can talk on here, leave a comment. But have people that are like doing this with you. If you're interested in like the prophetic ministry, like we have stuff at our church, Grace Christian Church, for people to plug into and get connected and like grow together with people, because that's really where real growth and health comes from. Growth in a healthy way. But anyway, so activate your gatekeeping. It's a powerful thing. And then, like I had mentioned before, do a study like in the scriptures about the gatekeepers or the porters, and just do a study on everything that was their responsibility and what those things actually spoke of, which was Jesus. But kind of the deeper meaning of what was really being talked about and what was happening. It's really powerful, and it speaks to everything I'm talking about now. So do that. Thank you for joining me. I will see you next week.